For more than 50 years, the world watched Brazil play football's most beautiful game. There was Pelé, there was Garrincha, there was Romario, Rivaldo, Ronaldo, and Ronaldinho, and then there was Neymar. For decades, Brazil produced magicians like a bakery produces bread. The conveyor belt never stopped. Then suddenly, it did. So what exactly broke the machine that built all the magicians? This is the story about how the most magical football culture on earth quietly went extinct. To understand what Brazil lost, you have to understand where it came from. And it didn't come from academies. It didn't come from analytics departments or sports science lab or expensive coaching certifications. It came from dirt. The story starts in places that won't appear on tourist maps. Bangu, Pau Grande, Vila Belmiro, favelas climbing the hillsides of Rio, dusty fields in Sao Paulo, beaches in Santos where the tide acted as the sideline. This was the laboratory, not built, found. Pelé learned to play with grapefruit stuffed in old socks because his family couldn't afford a proper ball. Garrincha, born with one leg shorter than the other, that doctors said would never let him run, became one of the greatest dribblers in history. The 1958 World Cup announced him to the world. The 1962 World Cup confirmed it. By the time Brazil won in 1970 with a team that is still spoken about in church-like tones, the idea was set in stone. Brazil didn't just play football, Brazil interpreted it, improvised it, played it like jazz musicians who happened to wear boots. And the soil that produced these players was a specific kind of soil. Poverty mostly, street football always, futsal and schoolyards where the small ball and tight space forced every Brazilian kid to develop close control, quick feet, and the kind of impossible balance you only get by getting kicked in the shins for a decade by older boys. This wasn't a system, it was an ecosystem. And ecosystems, as anyone who ever tried to introduce a new species to one will tell you, are very easy to destroy and almost impossible to put back together. If you grew up in the 90s or 2000s, you didn't know how lucky you were. You thought it was always going to be like this. You thought every World Cup would feature at least 3 Brazilians who looked like they were playing a video game, while everyone else was playing a sport. Romario arrived first, 5 feet 6 inches of pure goal. He didn't run, he glided. He didn't celebrate, he smirked. He scored over 1,000 career goals and spent most of his nights at parties that would have ended any European professional's career. When asked about his preparation, he said training was for people who didn't know how to play football. The annoying part was that he was kind of right. Then came Ronaldo, the original one, the phenomenon. A 19-year-old who moved like he weighed nothing and hit like he weighed everything. By 1996, he was already the best player on the planet. By 1998, his knees were started to whisper warnings. By 2002, he was bored and limping and still scored 2 goals in a World Cup final because that's just what Ronaldo did. Rivaldo, all left foot and bicycle kicks. Roberto Carlos, who once bent the ball so hard physicists wrote papers about it. Cafu and Roberto Carlos overlapping forever on opposite flanks, looking like the team had 6 attackers and 0 defenders, which was kind of the point. And then, when you just thought it couldn't get any more absurd, Ronaldinho showed up. Ronaldinho didn't play football. Ronaldinho enjoyed football, and the rest of us were invited to watch. The toothy grin, the no-look passes, the goals from corners that he scored on purpose. Barcelona under Ronaldinho became a religion. Real Madrid fans gave him a standing ovation in the Bernabeu. The Bernabeu, where they boo their own players for breathing wrong. That's the level of joy he caused. Adriano was the wrecking ball, the emperor, a striker built like he was sculpted out of Carrara marble and given a left foot capable of breaking radar guns. At his peak, around 2004 and 2005, there was an argument that he was the most dangerous footballer alive. He scored goals at Inter Milan that made grown defenders look at their own feet in confusion. And Robinho, the kid from Santos who did the pedalada, a rapid step-over dribble, faster than the human eye could follow. The heir, they called him. The next Pelé, the future. This is what most people forget when they look back. These weren't isolated stars, they were a flood. Brazil's 2002 World Cup squad had Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, all in the same starting 11, all peak years, all playing without irony. They won that tournament without ever really seeming to break a sweat. Ronaldo didn't play for more than 1.5 years after he came back to life at this World Cup. He scored 8 goals in the tournament, including twice in the final against Germany. That's how good Ronaldo was. Think about that for a second and ask Oliver Kahn how he felt after that finale. The 2006 squad added Adriano, Robinho and Cicinho to that core. On paper, it was the most talented squad ever assembled. On paper, it should have won everything. The point is, there was so much talent that the country took it for granted. The supply seemed inexhaustible. The next Ronaldinho was always coming. The next Romario was already at Santos or Sao Paulo or Vasco da Gama, eating up youth leagues and waiting for his call-up. Then there was a younger one coming up. A kid with a mohawk and a number 10 on his back and the same audacity. His name was Neymar, and we'll get to him. Nobody wanted to admit it while it was happening. The water was already heating up, the frogs were already in the pot, and Brazil was the frog. The first crack appeared somewhere around 2006, the Germany World Cup, a Brazil team stuffed with the most expensive talent on earth, the so-called magic quadrant of Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Kaká and Adriano, lost in the quarterfinals to France. Zinedine Zidane embarrassed them, made them look slow, made them look ordinary. The Brazilian press blamed Ronaldinho's nightlife, but the truth was uglier. France had a plan. Brazil had 4 superstars and a coach hoping they would figure it out. It was the first time in a long time that Brazil looked like a team relying on individuals to do what the system couldn't, and the individuals stopped coming. Look at the timeline. Ronaldo retired in 2011, his knees finally cashing in their long overdue invoice. Ronaldinho's last great year was 2007. Adriano, the Emperor, returned to Brazil in 2009 to deal with depression and never recovered. He was 27 years old. 27! He should have been entering his peak. Instead, he disappeared into the favela he came from and his career quietly ended. Robinho went to Manchester City in 2008 for a then record fee. He never adapted. He scored some, drifted some, and ended up in Italy. In 2022, he was convicted of sexual assault. The next Pelé, a reminder that not all collapses happen on the pitch. By 2010, the gods were all gone or going. The 2010 World Cup, Dunga's Brazil, was already a team built on work rate. Julio Batista, Felipe Melo, players who would have been the 7th choice midfielder in 1998. Brazil exited in the quarterfinals to the Netherlands. In their place, Brazil started producing a different kind of player. Strong, fast, tactically obedient, coached, not raised. Manufactured by club academies trying to mimic the European model. Decent professionals who could pass to the player next to them and run for 90 minutes without complaining. What they couldn't do mostly was the thing that made Brazilian football Brazilian in the first place. They couldn't beat a man one-on-one. They couldn't try the impossible pass. They couldn't take the ball into a tight corner with 3 defenders and laugh. The instinct to entertain was being coached out of them. By the time anyone noticed, an entire generation had already been processed through the machine. So what actually happened? How does a country lose an instinct? How do you accidentally erase the most distinctive footballing culture on the planet? There isn't one answer. There are about 6. And they all happened at the same time, which is what makes this such a perfect catastrophe. First, the streets disappeared. Or more accurately, the kids disappeared from the streets. Brazil urbanized at terrifying speed in the late 90s and 2000s. The favelas got more dangerous. Parents stopped letting their kids play outside for 10 hours a day. Smartphones arrived and video games arrived. The unsupervised, chaotic life or death pickup games that produced Pelé and Garrincha and Ronaldinho simply stopped happening. You cannot manufacture a Garrincha in a structured under-12 training session. You have to find him in a dirt pitch where the older kids are trying to kick him in half. Ronaldinho himself talked about this years ago. He said he learned the no-look pass because his older brother used to pretend he wasn't open just to embarrass him. He learned the elastico because there were 6 other kids on a small court and there was no time to do anything else. None of that is in a coaching manual. None of that survives a syllabus. It only happens when adults are not watching. Second, the futsal court started closing. Futsal, the small-sided indoor game, was the secret weapon of Brazilian football. Every great Brazilian player learned the game in a futsal court. Tight space, heavy ball, no time to think. It built the close control and the audacity in equal measure. As funding dried up, the infrastructure decayed. Futsal participation collapsed. The conveyor belt that fed the national team its magicians went quiet. Third, the academies got European. Brazilian clubs, broke and desperate for transfer fees, started selling kids at 16, 15, 14. To make those kids sellable, they had to make them look like the kids European scouts already understood. Big, athletic, positionally disciplined, project players. The result was an entire generation trained to be useful in a Bundesliga midfield, not to be irreplaceable in front of 70,000 Brazilians. The numbers tell the story. Brazilian clubs operate at a structural loss almost every season. They survive on transfer income. So when Real Madrid offers 30 million euros for a 16-year-old, you take it. Endrick was sold to Real Madrid at 16 for around 60 million euros and went to Spain at 18. Vinicius Jr. went at 18 for 45 million. Rodrigo, 18, 45 million. The escape velocity is now baked into the system. A Brazilian prospect's career path is no longer Santos to Sao Paulo to Flamengo. It's Santos at 15, Real Madrid at 18, La Liga forever. Fourth, the exodus accelerated. Brazil now exports footballers the way Saudi Arabia exports oil. More than 1,200 Brazilian players leave the country every year. The best of them are gone by 18. They develop in Lisbon, in Porto, in Donetsk before the war, in second-tier German clubs. They develop under coaches who don't care about Jogo Bonito. They develop into different players than they would have become at home. Fifth, the coach has changed. Chichi, the most respected Brazilian coach of the last decade, openly modeled his national team on European tactical structures. Possession with structure, compactness without the ball. The Seleção started looking like a slightly slower version of any decent Champions League side. The flair was framed as risk. Risk was framed as unprofessionalism. And in a country that used to define professionalism as the willingness to attempt the impossible, that was a quiet revolution. Noticed, Brazil tried to copy. Brazil forgot the thing that made it different in the first place. A culture is a fragile thing. You can lose it in 20 years. Bringing it back takes a lot longer. And so now we arrive at Neymar. Born in 1992 in Mogi das Cruzes outside Sao Paulo, skinny kid with a haircut his mother probably regretted. The last Brazilian player who grew up on the right side of the cultural cliff, who learned to play before the machine fully took over. When he broke through at Santos in 2009, the Brazilian press wrote about him the way they used to write about Pelé. He was the heir, the proof that the supply line still worked, the kid who would carry the flag for the next 15 years. And to his enormous credit, he has 120 plus appearances for Brazil, top scorer in national team history, Olympic gold in Rio in 2016, the gold medal that was supposed to redeem the 7-1. The penalty that he took walking up alone in front of his own people, in the country that 2 years earlier had watched its football identity dismantled by Germany on live television. He scored it. He cried. The country cried with him. Neymar has carried this on his back for 15 years, and the price has been visible. Look at his injury record. The vertebra in 2014, the broken metatarsal in 2018, the ankle ligaments, the ACL in 2023. He's 33 years old, and his body has the mileage of a 40-year-old taxi. Every World Cup he limps into wearing strapping and prayers. Every World Cup he limps out injured, in tears. Haven't tried to do alone what previous Brazilian teams did collectively. The transfer to Saudi Arabia in 2023 was treated in some quarters as a betrayal. The truth was sadder. It was an acknowledgement. The European chapter was over. The body was done, and there was nobody behind him. No 22-year-old waiting to take the number 10 and inherit the kingdom. There was Vinicius Jr., of course, brilliant at Real Madrid, devastating on the wing, a runaway favourite for the Ballon d'Or in 2024, until France football decided to give it to Rodri at the last minute. But Vinicius is a winger of the modern type. Fast, direct, ruthless. He's not, in the old sense, a magician. He's not what Ronaldinho was. He's something different. Useful, possibly even great, but different. Behind him, Rodrigo, also at Real Madrid, also talented, also not quite the answer. Rafinha, excellent at Barcelona. Endrick, the latest 16-year-old to be loaded onto the Brazilian dream conveyor and shipped to Madrid before his voice has finished breaking. These are very good footballers. They will win things, they will score goals. But ask yourself this, can you name a single one of them whose highlight reels you watch for fun? Whose moments make you laugh out loud at sheer audacity? Whose name your 6-year-old nephew chants while playing in the garden? Neymar still gets that. Sometimes, just barely, just about. He's the last echo of a sound that used to fill stadiums. And when he stops, the sound stops. So what now? Is Jogo Bonito gone forever? Has Brazil joined the long list of nations who produce professionals instead of artists? Are we going to watch Brazil play 0-0 draws for the next 20 years and pretend that's how it always was? Maybe, but not necessarily. The first fix has to be structural. Brazil needs to stop selling its 16-year-olds. The CBF, the Football Federation, has to work with clubs to delay the European exodus. Keep the kids in Brazilian football until they are at least 19 or 20. Let them develop in a culture that expects flair before it expects efficiency. Spain, Argentina, even Portugal all have strong domestic leagues that allow young players to mature at home. Brazil's league has become a finishing school for European scouts and nothing else. That has to change. It probably won't because the money is too good and the clubs are too broke, but it has to. The second fix is the grassroots. The futsal courts have to come back. Public investment in pick-up football culture, in the small-sided games, in the chaos that builds skill. This isn't romantic nonsense, it's documented. Every great Brazilian player up to and including Neymar logged thousands of hours on futsal courts. The decline in those courts maps almost exactly the decline in flair players. The pattern is right there in the data. The third fix is philosophical. The coaches have to stop being embarrassed by joy. Brazilian managers at club and national level have spent the last 15 years apologizing for the country's footballing identity, as if Jogo Bonito was something to grow out of, rather than the entire reason Brazil mattered in the first place. The new generation of coaches has to do the opposite, has to coach for risk, has to reward the attempted nutmeg even when it fails, has to remember that a Brazil team that loses 3-2 with 3 highlight reel goals is more valuable to Brazilian football than a Brazil team that wins 1-0 with a header from a corner. The fourth fix is harder, and it's the one nobody likes to talk about. Brazil has to stop pretending that copying Europe is the answer. The country tried that. It got to a World Cup semi-final and conceded 7 goals. The copy was worse than the original. There's no version of Brazilian football that out-Germans Germany. There's only Brazilian football played the Brazilian way, with the Brazilian audacity, or there's nothing. There's some hope buried in the rubble. The futsal national team is still one of the best in the world. There are coaches in the lower divisions in Brazil who still preach the old game, and who occasionally produce a kid who looks like he wandered out of 1998 by accident. Estevão Willian, the 17-year-old at Palmeiras, now headed to Chelsea, has been compared to Neymar more times than is healthy for any teenager. He may be the next one, he may not. Brazilian football has been wrong about the next one before. Robinho was the next Pelé, Ganso was the next Kaká, Lucas Moura was the next Robinho. The graveyard is full of next. The good news, if there is any, is that the raw material is still there. The kids are still there. The culture, dimmed but not dead, still flickers in the favelas and the futsal courts that survived. The instinct hasn't been killed. It has been told repeatedly, and by people who should have known better, to sit down and be quiet. Whether anyone in Brazilian football has the courage to tell it to stand back up is the question that will define the next 20 years. For now, there's Neymar. There's the memory of Ronaldinho's smile and Adriano's left foot, and the sound of 70,000 Brazilians realizing they were watching something they would tell their grandchildren about. That sound used to be the soundtrack of football itself. Now it's a recording, played on loop, getting quieter every year. If you want to see what Brazilian football used to be before the machine got a hold of it, check out our breakdown of the day it all came crashing down. Brazil 1, Germany 7, the night the Seleção died. Link in the description.